set up for another exciting week. I want to kind of give you, kind of the top things that I'll be looking for, at least as we sit here Sunday. You never know what happens in the world of business, personal finance. Something can happen Monday morning and everything changes. But as I sit here, what I'll be looking for this week is first and foremost, I'll be looking at Europe. Right, it's been about the U.S. trade war a lot lately, and I think that seems to be taking a back seat. Certainly, some big events in Europe coming up. They have some Fed rate decisions, and their Fed chairman, Mario Draghi, I think his name is. It's his last meeting that he's presiding over, and it seems like he is eager to push rates even further into the negative. So, first, I think he's going to get what he wants. He also is going to likely start another round of this bond buying program that they do. Both are intended to spark their economy, which is based on one article I read, on the verge of another lost decade, which is interesting. Their largest economy, which is Germany, right? This is the Euro region, is near the recession, right? They actually had 1 quarter of negative growth already, so they could be on the cusp of their second and thus a recession. I think Europe is in general in trouble. And on top of that, Brexit, some snap elections there. There's just a lot of things going on in Europe next week that we need to pay attention to. And why do we need to pay attention to it as real estate investors? Well, I suspect if Europe goes further negative, that the U.S., which has our Fed rate meeting the week after, would almost be almost have to follow suit, right? If we don't, then the dollar just continues to strengthen, and that will, in the wake of a trade war in manufacturing, that will hurt us even more. So I suspect there will be some big eyes on what's going on in Europe. I suspect it will have an impact on Fed rate decisions in the US. And of course, those rate decisions have impacts on real estate investors. So that's how I kind of get to why do we need to watch Europe. I also, I'm intrigued to see what other tools that Europe may bring to bear, right? Europe's been, as the article indicated, been kind of a lost decade, on the cusp of another one. I'm curious as a real estate investor, what's it like, right? If anybody's watching this channel from Europe, I'd love to hear from you. Leave some comments below. I haven't traveled to Europe extensively, but I've been in several European countries for work over the last couple of decades. And I remember being shocked at the big institutions in one country. I forget where it was. I think it was Switzerland, where the big insurance companies own most of the property, and most people rent it, like to the tune of 60%, some real high number. So I'm often curious if it's a structural problem in Europe. So I'm just curious about that. Troy's asking, should I refi my home now or wait? I was told, oh, I lost the text. I guess the question, Troy, for you was, should I refi now or are rates going to get better? It's your primary residence. I think you probably get a refi rate something in the low threes, if not twos. I know somebody who got a 2.5% on a 30-year, although I think that was a purchase mortgage, not a refi mortgage. I would look. I certainly think rates are going to get cheaper. I certainly think the Fed's going to lower rates in a couple of weeks, as I was just saying. I think Europe's going to lower, which will have the U.S. lower. But at some point, how much lower can rates go? Could rates for a primary residence have a 2 on it? I think it's pretty likely. I never thought I would say that, right? I thought 5% was low, and then 4%, and now 3s. I mean, it's crazy. But yeah, I mean, if you don't need the money and you can wait, sure. But realize that, anything can happen. I guess I would run the numbers, right? Do you need the money? Is it saving you? Or are you just recasting it, right? Term and rate, as they say, or are you doing a cash out? Lots of decisions to be thought about. But if the general question is, hey, do you think rates go lower? Yeah, I think rates go lower. That's what I'm thinking. So back to watching Europe as an investor. Again, watching Europe because we are in a global integrated economy is important because Europe's kind of teetering on recession. Watch what their Federal Reserves do. Watch what their businesses do, because it could be us in 12 months, 9 months, because we are in a world economy now. But again, I was going back to the structural problem. That's where I was. I'm wondering if no home ownership or ownership owned by big institutions like insurance companies, I wonder if that I wonder if that has an impact on the overall economy. I don't know. It was really shocking when I was there to see that most people rented. So it was pretty bizarre. And then as far as what am I looking for next week, there's actually a couple of reports that have my eye. One is on Thursday. That's the U.S. Consumer Price Index. This is where we start to see if inflation is rearing its ugly head or if we're in a deflationary environment. I'm not sure where this number is going to come in. It's probably too soon to have the consumer impact of the trade war hit it. It's probably next month, given the September 1st, just a week ago. So that one, maybe next month we'll see if the trade war is impacting inflation, because again, the prices have to get passed on somewhere. And then the big one for me will be Friday. It's the U.S. retail sales. That's a big one for me because, um, we've had some good numbers from some retailers and some not so good numbers from others. Uh, we've seen that the rich are sitting on their discretionary spending, but we really haven't seen the average consumer, right? The 99% of us, what they're doing. I suspect it's weaker than we think it is, right? I think people are starting to get afraid, and when they do that, they first thing they do is they slap the credit card shut. I get that a little bit from the Starbucks, right? Remember Starbucks? I think it was 2 weeks ago. Their CEO came out. I talked about it, and I was guessing that he had daily access, and people were buying their lattes. And then, like 10 days later, they came out and had some rigmarole about their lower growth. Um, I'm wondering if the consumer is not as strong. And that's important for us as retail investors because consumers, right, the average consumer, they're the owner occupant buyer, right? They're either the first time buyer or they're the move up buyer. And in the real estate world, they're the gorilla, right? They're the big elephant in the room. And when they get sick or they stop, the real estate investing world shifts, and it'll shift hard. And when the consumer does that, I like it because as a real estate investor, I want to buy stuff without competition. I want to find the motivated sellers, all of those things. So I'm really track the consumer, and we get a report on Friday that should be interesting, and that's retail sales. So that's what I'm looking for the week. My hope is it's all about Europe. Something doesn't come up and make the trade war go front and center again. Hopefully that's on the back burner for a while. Hopefully Hong Kong stays calm. I'm not sure what else to say. It seems to be taken off the headline, which is good. I think it was Argentina. No, Colombia, I think. Right, the currency scare down in South America. We got to watch that, see what's going on there. So lots of stuff going on, but that's what I'll be looking for. Have a great day. Enjoy your Sunday. Take care.